Hello and welcome to Beat the Nation SATS Week 8 with me, Mr. Barton. Now, what is Beat the Nation, I hear you say? Well, thousands of students all around the country have been sitting some quizzes on my diagnosticquestions.com website, and I've gone into one of these quizzes and I've chosen 3 questions, and they're the 3 questions you can see on the screen in front of you now. But these are not just any old 3 questions. Oh no, these are the 3 worst answered questions from that particular quiz. And I've got 5 challenges for you. So challenge number 1, can you get each of these questions correct? And that might be easier said than done, of course, because these are difficult questions. Challenge 2, out of these 3 questions, what do you reckon the worst answered one is? And then challenge 3, I wonder if you can predict what the most popular choice of wrong answer is for each of these questions. And then I wonder if you can get into the minds of the students who've chosen these popular wrong answers and explain why they've chosen them. And then finally, imagine you were sat next to somebody who was absolutely convinced that their wrong answer was in fact right. How would you convince them not only that you're right, but in a nice way that they're wrong? So what I suggest you do now is you pause this video, you work through these 3 questions and my 5 challenges, take your time, and then when you're ready, press play again and we'll go through them together. Good luck. Okay, have you got your answers? Nice one. Right, let's go through them, and to add a bit of drama, we'll do it in reverse order. So I'm going to start with the least worst answered question out of these 3, and it is the fractions question. Okay, write 15 out of 24 as a fraction in its simplest form. So we can write it as a fraction pretty easily, 15 out of 24. But of course, we've not finished here because we've got to put it in its simplest form. So what we're looking for is the highest common factor of this numerator, 15, and this denominator, 24. So we can divide both the numerator and the denominator by that highest common factor. So often students look to see if they can halve the numerator and denominator. So if you divided it by 2, you'd end up with 7.5 as the numerator and 12 as the denominator. But we've got to be careful here. We don't really want to have decimals mixed in with fractions. Keep those 2 things separate. It's not considered good form to have a decimal involved as a fraction. So C isn't the right answer. We can rule out C straight away. So can it be simplified? 15 out of 24, is there a common factor? Well, yeah, there is. There's 3. We can divide 15 by 3 and still be left with an integer answer, and we can divide 24 by 3 and still be left with an integer answer. So what's 15 divided by 3? Well, I think that's 5. And what's 24 divided by 3? Well, I think that's 8. Have a look here. Yeah, 5/8 is one of those. So I reckon that's the answer, because I can't see any other common factors of 5 and 8 that I can divide both of them by. Let's see if we've got it right. Well, yeah, we have, but look at that. Only 62% of students also got it right. The most common wrong answer was B, 3/8. Now, why might a student go for B, 3/8? Look, it's a really good start. This is a real life student explanation. You have to divide by 3. But then they seem to have made a slip. They've done 15 divided by 3 and they've ended up with 3. Perhaps when you look at that, you think, well, 3/8, that's the smallest fraction there. So maybe that's the right answer, but you've got to be careful. We divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same amount, and we've got to be super careful we get the right answer when we write down the answer to each of those divisions. Okay, let's take a look at the second worst answered question, and it is this one here. What is the lowest common multiple of 4 and 8? We've got to be careful here. We don't muddle up factors and multiples. I like to think of multiples as the times tables of those numbers. So if I start with 4, then all the multiples of 4 are the 4 times table. So I have 4, I have 8, I have 12, I have 16, I have 20, and so on and so on and so on. And likewise, the multiples of 8 are your 8 times tables. So you have 8, you have 16, we have 24, we have 32, we have 40, blah, 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 blah. So the question's saying here, what is the lowest common multiple of 8 and 4? So we're looking for a number that they've both got in common. Well, 16 springs to mind straight away. They've both got they've both got 16 as one of their multiples, but they've got a lower one here. They both have 8 as a common multiple. So I think the lowest common multiple of 4 and 8 is equal to 8. Now notice, if you think of it as times tables, and you remember to start on the number itself, so start with 8 and not with 16, then you don't miss out on that 8, which you could imagine some students might have done. And indeed, if we have a look at the answers, so we think the right answer is C, you can see here that B is the most popular wrong answer. 4. Wonder where 4 would come from. Why on earth would students think that 4 was the lowest common multiple of 4 and 8? Well, if you read the answers here, 4 can go into itself and it can go into 8. What are the students doing there? The students are mixing up factors and multiples. Because, of course, 4 is a factor of 4 and a factor of 8, but 4 is not a multiple of 8. Got to be really careful muddling up factors and multiples. And as I say, I think as multiples as the times tables of that number. Okay. We're building up here for the worst answered question out of those three, and it is this one here. Now, this is a tricky one. It's a wordy one. Wordy ones always take a bit of understanding, a bit of deciphering. It's got fractions chucked into the mix as well. So Simon spends 2/5 of his wages on bills. He has 700 quid left over. How much money was Simon's wages this month? Now, this question isn't asking us to find the answer. It's saying which of these calculations is a possible first step in solving the problem. So let's write down what we've got. Simon spends 2/5 of his wages on bills and he has £600 left. Now, does that mean that 2/5 is equal to £600? Well, no, because this is the money that he has left. So how much, what fraction of his entire wage is that £600? Well, if he spends 2/5, that £600 is equal to 3/5 of his whole wage. Just check you're happy with that. Imagine Simon starts off with a whole wage. He spends 2/5 of it. So let's just roughly divide this up. There's his 2/5. That's what he spends. He's got left 3/5, and we know that that 3/5 is equal to 600 quid. So now we have to go ahead and solve it. We want to find out what was this hole. What was the hole to begin with? That's what the question's asking. How much money was Simon's wage this month? Well, if we know what 3/5 is, a really smart next step will be to find out what 1/5 is. Because once we got 1/5, it's then not going to be too much of a jump to get the whole 5/5. So if we know what 3/5 is, what do we do to get to 1/5? Well, we divide by 3. And once we've got 1/5, what do we do to get the whole? We multiply by 5. So we can see that a really smart first step in solving this problem, because we know what 3/5 is to divide by 3 to get 1/5. So I think the correct answer to this is A. Dividing that £600 by 3 will give us 1/5, which will then enable us to find out what the whole wage is to begin with. Are we right? Well, yes, we are. But look at that. Less than half of students got this right. The most popular wrong answer is B. Dividing by 5. Now, why do students think you divide by 5? Have a read of that one. So you have to work out what 2/5 is. The first step to finding 2/5 is dividing 600 by 5. Now, the student here, what they've done is they've answered a different question. They've answered the question, what's 2/5 of £600? Indeed, if you're answering that question, a really good thing to do would be to divide by 5 and then multiply your answer by 2. But that's not what the question's asking. This question is telling us, in fact, that 3/5 is equal to £600. And our job is to try and find out what that whole is, what 5/5 is. And as we spoke about, a smart way of doing that is to first divide by 3. How did you get on with those 3 questions? I thought they were tricky this week, but don't worry about it. We've seen thousands of students who struggle with these. The key thing is we confront them, we discuss them, and hopefully we figure out what's going on. If you want some more questions, if you're a student, head to my website, diagnosticquestions.com/revision 2019. You can have a go at 20 of these quizzes. And if you're a teacher and you want to get your students set up on these revision schemes of work or any schemes of work, it's all completely free. Head to ed.co.uk, look for the schemes of work, in this case the revision schemes of work. And if you need help getting your students on the system so they can answer them, the quizzes get marked for them and so on and so forth, hello@ed.co.uk is the address to send an email to, ideally attaching a spreadsheet of your students' names and the classes you want to put them in. And I'll be back with another Guess the Misconception. Beat the Nation. Got the wrong name for my own thing. Back with another Beat the Nation soon. You take care and bye for now.